I am doing great. Thanks, Pete. I'm holding these cards up for everybody to see. And we're doing something very interesting tonight because we are talking to you audio, but we also have a video component going on. So if you go to True to You Radio or the Facebook event page, you're going to find the link and also the call-in number to reach us. So this is a very wonderful experiment, and I'm very honored to be a part of it because this is basically making history, Pete. So thanks a lot for including me in your amazing new venture of bringing audio and video together for your amazing audiences.
and I appreciate you working with us on this right here. You know, as any technology, it doesn't ever want to, you know, cooperate at first. It wants to make you work just a little bit for it. So we certainly appreciate your patience on this. And I'm really excited that you're one of the very first shows we're doing it with because you have a physical product. And so I think this is really profound because you're going to be able to not only just describe it, you know, audioly, but you're going to be able to actually show us, you know, what it is that you have. And I am so excited about this, and I have so many questions because, I mean, I want to do my own card deck too, so I got all kinds of questions for you. And we already have some callers in the queue. And I'm just going to say for any callers in the queue, later on when we do get the question and answer part, if you will dial in *6, and that way you'll raise your hand, we'll know that you do have a question. So Kyle, tell us all about your cards. I'm so excited.
Great. Well, I'm super excited. They have been 2 whole years in the making. It was a very involved process. I rediscovered a graphic designer that I had worked with when I was in magazine publishing 25 years ago. And his name is Rafe Brickman, great guy. We collaborated closely. He's also a good photographer. And what we did was we took photographs of crystals, key crystals, personal crystals, ones that I have in my own collection and that I use for group sessions or individual sessions. In fact, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the precursor of the card deck to give you a little bit of context of where it came from. I'm holding up in my hand here a poster. It's the Crystal Energy Zones poster. And what I've done, if I can avoid the glare from all the light over here, and also for the people who cannot see it, I'm going to explain what we're looking at. What I have done after having worked with crystals for nearly 30 years is formulated a paradigm, a crystal language, a way of understanding how to work with them that will immediately make sense to people who are particularly familiar with the whole chakra system, the root chakra, second chakra, crown chakra. All of those different energy centers of the human body have direct mineral correspondence. There are stones that actually speak to specific parts of your body. And so what I've done is I've created this poster, and I've begun with something called foundation. And foundation consists of the solar plexus down to the root chakra. In the poster, we also have some crystals associated with beneath the root chakra. We move up to the heart, and we get a bunch of crystals associated with that. We also get to voice. So heart and voice are actually very, very important for the human being. And over here, we have what I call source, which is basically the lower mind up into the astral planes. So those are the 4 elements that make up the human crystal energy zones. So what we did is, after creating that poster, which is available, you can get an online version PDF, or you can get a printed poster that's in a laminated coating like this. We wanted to go to the next level. I wanted to go to the next level because I realized that what was missing from the poster was what I call the 5th element. Okay, the 5th element are crystals that do not directly associate with specific parts of the body, but are very important nonetheless. So I created a card deck. This is the back of the deck, and it talks about foundation, and it talks about heart. You've got voice, and you've got source, but down here you have channel. channel is the fifth element. So I went from 29 stones featured in the poster up to 52 in the actual deck. And this is the deck right here. You can get a good look, pretty colors, very attractive, and it has three important uses. One is for meditation, one is for affirmations, and one is as an oracle deck. So I can explain each one of those. I'm wondering, Pete, if you have any immediate questions off the bat. I can continue to walk everybody through, but I want to give you an opportunity to sort of bounce anything off based on what I've said so far.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much because Kyle was kind enough to actually send me a deck of these cards, and I can't wait to actually start working with them. I've been sort of aligning with them right now, and I'm just really, really super excited. So, yeah, I think that's very interesting how you have, you know, the five different, you know, would you call them sets or
elements? The five different elements.
Elements. Okay, yeah, I just think that's amazing. I'm not even sure really where to go with it, you know, because like I'm an aficionado of gems, but I'm certainly not going to say I'm an expert in any way. So I always let you lead because that's your genre.
Happy to do it. Let me actually take you on a little stroll through the different cards. So we talked about how there's five elements. The first one is foundation. Then we've got a bunch of cards in there. Then we've got heart. All right. And we've got only a handful in the heart area. And the same is true for voice here. And then we move on to source, and we've got a bunch of crystals in there. The first one we've got listed is jet, which is a wonderful internal clearing stone. One of the differences in my whole chakra system is that the color black appears at several points in it, from the bottom right up to the very top. And the different black stones have very different functions for the different places that you find them inside of our whole chakra system. Now, last but not least is channel. And if I open it up, you'll see there's a ton of crystals that fit into the fifth element category of channel. And what I've done is at the top of each card, you can kind of see I've numbered them. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4 and such. And the idea is basically the lower the number, the lower the placement on the whole chakra system. Now with channel, you could line up channel next to the whole chakra system, starting with 1 at the bottom and then moving up. So for me, the numbers 1 will place something lower. This, for example, is irradiated quartz, another black stone that sits beneath our aura system and is used as a form of active protection. At the top of channel, I put aura quartz. Okay, aura quartz is an interesting material which is treated. So I have represented stones that are natural, most of them, but the irradiated quartz and the aura quartzes are treated, and in that way, a sort of human artificial perspective is introduced into the stone, which makes it very useful, but not on the human body unless you're using it for a specific meditation. So there you have it. You got your 5 elements, a bunch of cards associated with each one, and on the inside of the back cover, you have some instructions, which I'm going to read to you. They say, individually or in combination, hold or lay the cards out, add or include any stones you may have already, speak or meditate on the bracketed energy association terms to get each piece. So let me unpack that a little bit, because on a card, you don't have a lot of room. It's not like a whole book. It's not like you can write a whole chapter about this. So in the card, we suggest we use poetic license. We use words to make you work. Because what we don't want to do is pretend that we have a simple pat system all laid out for you, that you just sort of walk into it and then all your problems are solved. This is what I call a participation sport. So the idea is that you've got to really get with these cards, the whole deck and the individual cards, in order to really understand them. I'm going to pick something kind of easy for you to give you as an example. In the heart chakra, we have rose quartz, okay? So don't go by the color that you're seeing on the screen, because as we know, online visuals are not everything they ought to be. And I've got some yellow lights and some white lights, and I've tried to create any kind of a realistic visual experience. I think it's actually better than Google Chat. So we've got some really cool technology going for us. And Pete, I think you've got some great lighting in there. You're also lit up by your computer screen. Mine's a little far away to give me any help. But to get back to the rose quartz, underneath it, it says unconditional love. So unconditional love in the brackets here, immediately under the stone, is a basic explanation of what is the stone's energy. What does it represent? So in this case, rose quartz represents unconditional love, just like total openness. Now, underneath that, we have a little affirmation, which is right here in the colorful border at the bottom of each card. And that says, I open my heart to all beings. So if you were to pick this one card out of the entire deck as a way of, say, starting your day, and you wanted a little bit of inspiration that was unpredictable, you could mix up the cards, you pull out one card, this is the card, you read that affirmation, you say, holy cow, do I really want to open my heart to all beings? It's a bit of a responsibility. It's a project. It's a task, actually. And as such, you know, for people who are involved in the New Age and people who are doing any kind of self-improvement, there's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot. And that phrase is, are you doing the work? Or let's do the work. So what does that mean, to do the work? To do the work means to actually stop and ask yourself some of the questions. Don't just expect answers from outside. Interact in what they call co-creation. In co-creation, you are working with the universe. The universe isn't just making everything happen to you. And at the same time, all the power is not yours to make everything happen. There's like a dance that you're engaged with, you and other people, the universe, God, whatever you want to call or invoke into your life as a partner for the creation of your own spiritual development. That's a team project. So not only is working with crystals or these crystal cards a participation sport, but it's also it's a team sport. So I think that sort of introduces you at least to one card. I could go through all of them. I could go through one card from each section. I want to open it up in case, Pete, you have questions, or if any of our callers or viewers have questions. I'd love to be able to answer them if that's happening. Otherwise, I can move on.
Let's see. If no one else has their hands up, I just want to remind everybody this is a live call-in show. You can dial in 712-775-7035 with the code 563349 to actually participate in the call. Or you can actually just go to truetoyouradio.com. Of course, you can just listen to the live link there. Or you can go to zcedonline.com and you can find the show there in the front where it shows the different listings, and you can actually watch us live on video. If anybody is that is on the call right now, we do have a few callers in the queue. If you have a question, I would love for you to dial in *6 to raise your hand to let us know. Yeah, Kyle, you're giving some amazing information. I thought that was really interesting when you talked about the jet, because when I think of jet, I think of it as all black, but you said there's like gradients of black on that one?
No, what I actually meant was that there are gradients among the black stones.
Okay.
So, yes, jet is all black. Black obsidian is all black. But even in obsidian, you've got variations. You've got sheen obsidian, silver, and gold. You also have snowflake obsidian. Now, those don't all feature in the card deck. The card deck only mentions black obsidian because that's kind of like the uber obsidian or the uber black stone for what it represents, which is openness. And that's something that exists on a higher plane than our own body in what I mentioned earlier as the astral planes. So maybe for those of us who are less familiar with the chakras, maybe I should pick out a couple of stones or a couple of cards from the different elements and give you a little explanation. Does that sound like a plan, Pete?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here's foundation right here. We've got ruby. We've got tiger iron. We've got petrified wood. We have got rhodochrosite. And we have got carnelian, as well as a different type of petrified wood, and also skeletal quartz. Wow, this is a good one. Herkimer quartz appears here as well, and citrine and amber are at the top. So that's a lot right there. You know, basically the foundation is talking about our solar plexus on down to our root chakra. So that means the root chakra is the base of your spine. But one of the things that's different about my entire paradigm of understanding crystals is that I've included petrified wood as an important piece of the puzzle. It represents your arms, your fingers, your hands, as well as your legs. Most chakra diagrams neglect and exclude those very important parts of your body. I mean, when you check it out, a lot of the mass of your person is your legs and your arms. So that's why I thought it was really important. And when petrified wood presented itself to me as the ultimate sort of representative of that fiery movement energy that we have in our hands and in the locomotion that we get from our legs and feet, I included them. And at the top came citrine, which represents the sort of positive ego, the best sense of self, your best foot forward, who you really want to be. Because the solar plexus is an interesting balance between the physical and the intellectual and the emotional. It's sort of right in the middle, just like the axis of a wheel. So that's foundation for you. I mentioned heart, and I had talked about rose quartz, but rose quartz is only number 5. There's smoky quartz, there's milky quartz, lavender, fluorite, malachite, nephrite, jade, and even bloodstone. This one came out real nice, the bloodstone. And so one of the things that I had wanted to suggest for people is, say you want to focus on heart. Say instead of picking a random card, you want to focus on one particular chakra area. So you take all the heart cards and you kind of lay them out in front of you and you contemplate them. You're like, well, gosh, I've got unconditional love over here. I've got forgiveness. I've got compassion, nurturance. I have calming. I have something that can express feelings. These are all sort of complex sub-pieces of our heart chakra experience that are brought out and manifested and represented by specific stones and, fortunately, specific cards. I had someone come to my table this weekend. I was at an expo, and they were like, what's this? Costs a lot. Oh my gosh, that's so expensive. And I said, well, yeah, I must confess, I don't really carry things that are super cheap because I don't find that the super cheap stuff is super powerful. I call my company, my crystal sales company, Power Stone Crystals, So there's got to be something, some merit to the stones. So pretty much the lowest price you'll find is around $20, which isn't a lot of money. It's a $20 bill. People spend that all the time. But I had a solution for her. I said, guess what? You can buy one stone for $20, or you can buy an entire deck of cards representing 52 stones for $20. And you can get all the benefits and learning without having to purchase an entire collection of top quality power stones. You can just buy this one deck, and you've got 52 right there, and you can study with them, and you can actually work with them in a way to enhance your life, because the energy of the stones is shown by the photograph, and it's explained by the text, and you're given a clear way or entry or portal into actually thinking about it, an affirmation that you can say to bring in that energy into your life. And I know, Pete, we had been talking a while ago about cards in general, and I wanted to know, if there's no question right now, if you wanted to tell me a little bit, or tell the audience a little bit about what you had said about cards and how it's good to receive them, and the type of value that you've experienced from cards in general, and what you make of oracle cards as a medium, and how you might imagine using these cards for yourself in your own practice.
Well, for me, it's important to buy cards that are, really resonate with you, but it's even more powerful, what you're given, a deck of cards. That's really, it goes beyond that. I mean, of course, there is power in actually being able to, because I hear a lot of people that buy cards, they'll go in and they'll see like a whole selection, and they'll pick the ones that really resonate with them. But at the same time, if somebody gives you a deck of cards, that really needs to be honored, and really celebrated, because that's just something special. And it's really important for me to really energetically align yourself with cards. So for me, the way I do that is I usually put them under my pillow at night, and I kind of sleep with them, or just keep them near to my person. Maybe I'll put them next to my heart, or something like that. Or, even kind of like your whole idea with the concept of the cards, you can even just kind of like intend on it no matter where they are. And that's kind of your idea with the cards, where you don't necessarily have to have the stone in your hand. You can have the representation of the stone, because it is really all energy and intention when you get down to it anyway. So it's whatever puts you into that zone and puts you into that connection with it, whether it's below your head, on your heart, just thinking about it, maybe in your wallet or your purse or your pocket, or whatever resonates with you. Does that make sense?
I love that. I think that's a great way of thinking about it. I think you do have to resonate with the card deck. It helps if you understand a little bit more about where it's coming from, which is the vital function of this type of an experience. For people who are on the phone or who are watching the video, to be able to see what's really going on with the deck and get to understand a little bit about where it's coming from and the context that it fits into. I liked your idea about people gifting cards. We find ourselves right at the doorstep of the holiday season this year. So I've actually already experienced people purchasing these cards as gifts. They look really, really nice in one of those little pretty purple drawstring bags, or any kind of bag that sort of fits them nicely. And it's a nice way to contain them, because they are shrink wrapped. They don't have a box, and they also don't have any more, a booklet that comes with it or any of that. What we're really looking for people to do is, on the one hand, work with the cards themselves, and on the other hand, reach out to us, to me. My email is the easiest way for you to find out more about the cards or even order them. My name is Kyle, K-Y-L-E, and my email address is kyle@crystalconcentrics.com. So you can just email me, crystalconcentrics, plural, .com. I'm happy to let you know more about it. I have a Facebook event page dedicated to it. I have newsletters that come out that are super informative. I had been going to do a webinar about it, but this is kind of turning into that webinar, because we just went from an audio-only radio program that gets turned into a podcast into an actual video experience that's going to be visible on sites, on our associated sites, maybe YouTube also. And so people can really tune into what it is that we're offering as True to You Radio is, you know, as far as all the presenters that they bring to the table, as well as myself, Kyle Russell, Crystal Concentrics, and Power Stone Crystals. We've really had a wonderful platform through True to You Radio to bring a whole new audience exposure to the concepts that we have, and now some of the products that we have. Most importantly, this amazing deck of cards. And I'll leave it open to you, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Channel next.
Cool. So I mean, I think this is absolutely amazing. Like you were talking about the value of this only being $20, because if you were to go out and get a collection of high quality stones, you know, you'd be talking probably $150, $200, plus having to keep up with those, you know, different types of things. I do want to make sure we do a shout out. This is a live call-in show. You can dial in 712-775-7035 with the code 563349. Or you can go to TrueToYouRadio.com. You can listen live there. You can also go to zcedonline.com, find the show there, and actually watch it live. If you're one of our wonderful people that are on the call right now, if you'd like to ask a question, you can dial in *6 when we get to that. When we get to the question and answer part, that'll raise your hand. That'll let us know that you would like to ask a question. So I do have kind of a little bit of a question for you, because you know you talked about the amethyst has been modified, or I'm not sure the word that you used. And I thought that was sort of like a no-no in the in the field. Yes. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that comes from one of our other shows in which I was talking about how amethyst gets baked and the color changes from purple over to a kind of ochre orange yellow that most sellers in the industry use as an excuse to sell it as citrine. Now, I mentioned citrine before, and if you look at that card, it's somewhere in here. Oh, here it is. If you look at this card, it's a little dark because of the computer screen, but it's not the same color as that ochre citrine that people sell in clusters. And the issue that I had with that treated stone is that it's being sold falsely as something that it's not. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, I find it attractive and I carry it, but it's not as interesting as the two other treated stones I mentioned, irradiated quartz and aura quartz, because what happens with those treatments is that the original crystal energy is not just transformed visually as a sort of aesthetic shift, but an energetic shift that is really, really substantial. An aura quartz takes on a whole different energy than the original cluster it came from. And the same is true with irradiated quartz. Now, it so happens that those are only 2 out of the 52 cards. There's 50 more of them that are not treated, that are totally natural. So I don't want you thinking that, you know, I have a deck full of fake materials that I am sort of elevating by including them in this deck. I did have to exclude some stones, a lot of stones that you'll find, like some crystal books will list hundreds of stones, and that's great from an encyclopedic perspective. But most of the stones that you're going to really need or want in your own practice are in this list of 52. That's part of the power of the deck, is that you're going to find the keystones, the ones that after all of my experience, 25 years of working with crystals, I've weeded down, I've whittled away the ones that I think are less important, and I've included the ones that I think really matter most and are going to be most useful for you in your understanding of how to work with and think about your own body, as well as how you're going to work with energies in general. So the body stones are the first 4 elements: the foundation, the heart, the voice, and source. Now notice source and foundation are kind of similar sounding words in terms of what they mean. So source could be where you come from, but so could foundation. People, when they die, they say from dust to dust. You go back into the foundation, or you go up into the sky, heaven, whatever you want to call it. So source and foundation are what brings our own body energy system into full circle, so that we start from a certain place, but we also cycle back around in our lifetimes or in one lifetime. You don't have to believe in reincarnation. You don't have to believe in Hinduism or Ayurvedic studies. There's lots of things that are not required in order for you to immediately understand and be able to use crystals as they've been described and broken down in the affirmation and meditation deck that I've created.
Cool. And I did want to I had another question. I wonder if this kind of correlated to anything. When you were talking about the petrified wood, I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a certain root, and I'm not an expert, but there's a root that, gosh, you probably know the name of it, that looks like the body. And that's what I was thinking of when you said the petrified wood, because you were talking about the legs and the arms. And I wish I could think of the name of this root. You probably know it.
Do you?
Yes, I do, actually. Yes. So does that have any kind of correlation to that? Because that's what I thought of when you started talking about that.
Right. Well, the thing that's interesting is that people should always understand that any energy system can be a microcosm of much larger energy systems. So like you were saying, the ginseng is a similar shape to the human body, but the whole thing of it, just like some of those gnarly carrots that look like little people, exists entirely underground. And I just find that fascinating that even underground in one whole sphere, you can have something that looks like it's got a head and a body and feet and legs, and the entirety of the macrocosm that would be our body is reflected inside of this little root. And in the same way, our human society exists as part of a much larger macrocosm that includes the planet, the solar system, galaxies, and the whole universe. So when I lead meditations, or I would suggest also for you, when you do layouts, because you can use these cards to lay out certain energies that you're looking to bring into your life. And when you lay out those cards, it's just like you're making a grid or a layout of crystals. Because as Pete was saying earlier, it is all about the energetics. And you take the energetics without having to take the weight, the sheer weight of all the stones. Of course, I'm not recommending you throw away your rock collection or that you stop collecting. And by the way, Pete, I like the way that you had said that that a collection can run you a few $100s. This poster was made with some very large stones that laid out would actually spread out about 20 feet. So in my experience, to develop the type of collection that I have that has surrounded me as I've come up with these paradigms and developed this sort of curriculum or way of understanding crystals that I call the language of crystals, I've actually invested thousands of dollars in pieces that are really, you know, the kind of the cream of the crop, like smoky quartz, to get the very, very best. I'm going to show you, for example, over in Foundation, at the bottom of Foundation, you have ruby. This is a kind of a scrumptious ruby. It's sort of hard to see it, that dark color, which is very similar to the color that comes out of our deepest arteries. Unfortunately, if you've ever seen this, you know, you cut your finger, you get a bright red. You cut something much deeper, you get something much darker. And I think that speaks to the rooty quality of ruby, which is at the base of the whole foundation, our whole chakra system. And what it says here is earth grounding, okay? And the affirmation is, I am sourced from below. So the question is, am I being sourced from below in my body? Is there some sort of like fire of energy that's coming up through me? The whole Kundalini philosophy sort of espouses that idea that there's like a rising snake and energy that comes up like a flame through your body. But also, if you think, I am sourced from below, that could mean from the earth. I am sourced from the foundation of the building that I'm living in, the security that modern society gives us. In some ways, that's a foundation that is worthy. Some people think, oh, that's horrible because you're not connected with the earth. Well, you can also think beyond the foundation of a building, go right down to the ground, right down into the planet, and also see how the planet is set in relation to the other planets and the sun. All of these things moving around, and sort of attune yourself to the celestial bodies, which brings up the whole idea of using the cards as an oracle deck to say, maybe I can pick out a card, not just as inspiration for the day or, randomly, but I could actually, go through the deck and find energies that I intentionally want to pursue and bring into my life. Or I want to do a reading for someone the way I would use a tarot card, and I could lay them out, or I could pick past, present, future, and the person and you as the reader can collaborate. I've already sold cards to psychics, and they've been really psyched about, excuse the choice of word there, but they've been psyched about how the cards have felt like a real natural way to bring in certain energies into the conversation that you're having with a client, so that they can find value in seeing, oh, well, how does this speak to my present? How does this other card speak to my past? And what could this third card mean about my future, and what I need to either watch out for or prepare for or actually try to bring into my life? So it's really a rich set of possibilities that you can use these cards for in your own personal practice, as well as working with other people, either in groups or one-on-one.
That's amazing. So now I've not had a chance to really work with them yet, because like I say, I've been energetically aligning with them. Can you talk about personally what these cards have done for you, or anybody else really? Like, is there any kind of changes or really anything that's really been brought up from these cards?
Right now, it's all so new and fresh that I think it's like a ripple effect. So what's going on is the energy from this deck is just beginning to have its impact on the world, and those reflections are coming back bit by bit to me. For example, a psychic reader used it in her practice, and she thought that it was a really great way and useful tool for her to bring out the energies that she needed to talk about with her client. For myself in my own life, I find that they're a great way to travel with my whole collection without actually having to travel with my collection. I went to New York, and I took a very light bag that I could carry only small session stones that I used in my crystal readings that I did with people. But now I realize I could actually use the deck instead. Once I read where a person is at, by asking them questions, what they're going through, what they're struggling with, then I can pick out the appropriate cards that we should be thinking about and meditating on. I always recommend using real stones also, because once you understand the energetics of the crystals based on how they're explained in the card deck, then your appreciation and your capacity to get more out of the actual stones goes way up. So it's a sort of a learning curve, but also a receiving curve, because the more energy that you put into it and the more you understand about the different stones as facilitated by the card deck, the easier it's going to be for you to then go back and look at the stones and say, okay, wow, all right, this one, I get it. And sometimes there are stones that are like other stones that have a similar energy. And I'm going to give you an example. Over here in Source, I'm going to find, well, actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about labradorite. Labradorite is an interesting material. It says imagination. So if you needed one word to understand what is labradorite all about, imagination sort of puts you right there. But in fact, you can also elaborate on that and say imagination taps into the subconscious, it taps into the dream time, it taps into some of those things that we don't have access to in our conscious daily life. So what I proposed as an affirmation is to dive freely into the subconscious. So that's something to sort of sit with and say, wow, what does that mean? How can I dive deeply into the subconscious? Is this something I can do in my dreams? Is it something that I can do during my meditation? Is it something I even want to do? Am I afraid of what I'll find there? So it's your imagination that gives you the opportunity to explore and go deeper and ask the types of questions that one leads to another. And so just because you got one stone defined in one way doesn't mean that you can't use your own personal, psychological, spiritual questing adventurousness, journey, your interest in journeying to take it to another level.
Interesting. And I did want to kind of ask you a question. I know for me with card decks that I work with, it's almost like you establish a relationship over time. And as you use them more and more, I mean, it's almost gotten to where with some of my card decks, I almost even don't have to really look at them, or even what they say on the face of them is not what they're telling me. So do you have any experience that with these card decks yet? I mean, I'm sure it's probably going to be the same thing.
Well, what happens is it's okay, like when I work with crystals, right? I've got a back room where I keep all my session pieces, things that I work on with individuals or for myself or in groups. And so I'll give you an example. Say I'm doing an individual session with someone and they're telling me about where they're at and what their issues are. And I automatically, energetically know what the complement is going to be for them to work with in the session. So I'll disappear into the back room. I know exactly what stone I'm looking for. I go to the shelf, I grab it, we work with it. The same is true with the deck. And I'm already feeling that way for myself. I'm like, oh, wow, I've got channel here. And as I become more familiar with it, I can say, oh, yeah, you know, I know that Ventifax, this stone here, is part of channel. So I know I'll go right into channel to try to find that. Or say I want to get Celestial Quartz. Celestial Quartz doesn't appeal directly to one part of the human body, but what it does appeal to is what I call elder wisdom. And the affirmation to it is, I rely on my ancestor spirits. So that sort of puts you out there where you might not feel any connection with your ancestor spirits, but when you invoke that type of power and that type of a relationship that is brought about or a bridge is created to and for it with the celestial quartz, then you're able to explore that possibility where it may never have been there before. So I think that as you get more familiar with the deck, I know this has been happening for me, and I'm sure it'll happen for you too, Pete. You can be like, yeah, just like how you are with the archangels. You know, you're like, okay, this is a job for Metatron. You know what I mean? It's like I know exactly who my go-to angel is. The same is true with the cards or the crystals that they represent. And so I'm real optimistic that if you get one of these decks, you're going to start getting that familiarity, and we're actually going to have some fun in the future working with groups individually and online using the actual cards. I think that their utility and the ways in which we can play with them are actually, we're at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what the possibilities really are. So I'm super excited about what this deck has brought into the world for me and for those who are interested in crystals, to get a different perspective than what has been published for all these years in a lot of the books out there, because I don't actually follow what's in the books. I was explaining to somebody that I had a massive download many years back during the harmonic convergence, in which I came through the other side knowing a lot of what I know now, but I didn't yet have the language for how to express it and share it with people. So I've been really lucky and blessed that right now in this particular kind of harmonic convergence, that this information is starting to take form and be shared in a paradigm and in a handy sort of visual sense that's going to enable you to access a whole new vein, as it were, of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding about crystals, about energy medicine, and about the forces of nature, which are ultimately what we're grappling with all the time in our bodies and also in the world and the universe.
That's amazing. Is there any way we could possibly do like a little bit of can we play with them just a little bit tonight?
Sure, you lead the way. What do you suggest?
Well, so how does it work? Do you ask a question? Like, I know for me, I usually ask a subject or a topic or something. I don't know how does it work for you.
Okay.
Exactly.
So let's run with that. So you want to ask about a set topic?
Sure. Okay.
All right. Put it out there.
Oh, let's see here. How about relationships for me? I would love to know.
Oh, you want a little inspiration on that subject.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Do you want to... Okay, so say, this is cool. Say you were in a hallway, a corridor, and you had 5 doors. And on those doors, each one of those doors was named one thing: foundation, heart, voice, source, and channel. Which door would you want to go through in order to get the first answer that you're looking for on this topic?
Channel.
Okay, so channel. I'm holding in my hand the channel department, and I'm looking it up. And you want to pick a card, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you can do this, but why don't you? Can you like actually pick a card?
I want the it's this one right here. Go down a little bit more. One more. There you go. That's the one I want.
This one right here. Okay. All right. This is interesting. This is green quartz. All right. It's a green colored quartz formation, and the basic explanation of it is spirit mansions. All right. So and then what's the affirmation? The affirmation is, where do they dwell? So what does that tell you about relationship?
It's probably telling me I'm looking under the wrong rocks.
Yes, I think that's how I would read it. I like it a lot. That's incredible. So for you, yeah. In fact, I have a friend who is a good friend of mine who is also having relationship issues, and the sense ultimately became that they needed to stop looking for who they had looked for before, and they needed to look in a whole different place, like, for example, spirit mansions. That's the type. And then dream quartz is all about the subconscious. So you have to do some work going into yourself to try to get in touch with the subconscious and find where that sort of inner compass is that's going to direct you in the right direction to that person. Because there's confusion now about where that's going or where that should be headed or where it's been before. So there's your card.
That's amazing. It's really telling me what I already know.
I like that. I like the way that you picked that one out of there. So you want to pick another question?
Sure. So, wow. I guess the next one would be probably all my ventures, although I already know the truth of it. And for that one, I'm actually feeling heart.
Yes. So this time you have a question about heart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are we on a theme here? Relationships, heart?
Well, you know, whenever I ask somebody if they want to do a reading and they'll give me two subjects, I know that they're intertwined.
Yes. Well, that's the case here. So, where do we go? What do we pick?
Keep going back up. It's that one right there. Right.
This one? Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. All right. What we've picked is nephrite jade. All right. Now, nephrite jade is a very special stone. And what it is in the brackets here is an emotional soother. Okay. So what you've picked from heart is emotional soothing, which is enhanced by the affirmation, which says, I am here for you. And in parentheses at the end, it says, for me. So what you need to do is consider the idea of repeating to yourself, I am here for me. And the way in which that lands is that it gives you kind of a reassurance that you're not alone, that in fact, you have been created as a partner for yourself first and foremost. They say you're born alone and you die alone. So you better get used to being alone before you start adding pieces and relationships and all this. Because if you feel incomplete as an individual and that only someone else is going to make you complete, then you're going to go reproduce that sense of incompletion with somebody else. So I think that the message here of this card is that you need to really get with yourself and you need to be here for yourself. And in that way, once you sort of achieve that oneness, then you'll be able to be there for someone else, or someone else will be able to feel that from you, that they're going to have you present for them in a way that they may never have had someone themselves. So nephrite jade is the ultimate sort of soother in that sort of deep, watery, emotional, kind of loving way that nothing else. I mean, there are other stones in the heart department that are very useful, but hey, you didn't pick them. You picked this one. So I think that your message here has to do with the jade piece, which is soothing, self-soothing also, as well as from outside. And then the other piece that you picked with the spiritual mansions and the dream quartz. In fact, it's the kind of thing where you would take the two cards, pin them up on your mirror or something, you know what I mean? And say, this is my sort of cone or message for the day or the week. I need to really sit. And so if you're looking for topics, a lot of people, when they sit down to meditate, they don't know what to meditate about. And what's so great about these cards is it gives you context. It gives you something to land on, something concrete, something, a rock foundation, as it were, that you can sort of build your practice off of in order to understand what's next and what's right and what's appropriate for you and the energies you want to bring into your life.
Amazing, Kyle. Well, we're just about the end of the show. Do you want to let everybody know how to get in contact with you?
Yes, absolutely. What you want to do is you want to write Kyle, K-Y-L-E, at crystalconcentrics.com. That's the portal. You can go to shop and you'll find a link for these cards, explanation, and some of the other products that I offer, including videos. We have lots and lots of curriculum, and I'm starting a membership program in the new year. So watch for that updates as far as what does the membership consist of. The website actually has a lot of this information. It has blogs. It has access to my for sale website. There's a huge amount of information that's available at crystalconcentrics.com. So I'll look forward to hearing from you there or by email or when me and Pete get together again and have our fireside chats like this.
I love it. Well, this has been the live call-in show, Crystal Concentric Consciousness with Kyle Russell, then Pete Kosman here on TrueYouRadio.com. We ask you to come check us out there. Also, come check us out at zcedonline.com. We've talked to Kyle today. He's going to be putting a lot more material on there, so he's one of our newest presenters. We're very excited about that. Going to have all kinds of great new programs that he's going to have on there. And please go check out his cards. He's got you can catch up with him at Crystal Concentric Consciousness. Tell me your website one more time. I'm sorry, I get so many words.
I know. Well, people mix it up with other words all the time. So it's Crystal, so that's easy to always remember. And then concentrics. It's like concentric circles, like they ripple out. Just the way I was talking about the impact of the cards is starting to ripple out. But also the way that crystals are formed is often from a core that grows layer upon layer, just like a tree. So you've got those concentric circles. So Kyle at Crystal Concentrics.
Amazing. So I invite everybody to please go take a look at his website. Purchase these cards. I am so excited to start using them. I cannot wait. And so we're just going to go ahead and say goodnight then. Okay, Kyle?
Okay, Pete. Thanks a million. Great to connect once again. And thanks to all our audience for tuning in. Remember, you can always send questions by email. Sometimes people don't think of it on the fly. And I know this has been super, super informative. Lots and lots of content. We'll just look forward to giving you new, more, and interesting information next time. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.